What's up YouTube? Eastern PA Fishing here, coming at you with another fishing informational. In this one, how to catch the elusive winter bass. I got a couple different baits with me here today. I'm going to go over them and tell you why I would be using them and how I would use them and why they're effective this time of year. Let's get right into it. Eastern PA Fishing. When bass fishing, there's usually three target areas of the water that you want to fish: the top, the middle, and the bottom. But during the winter, I'm not saying it's impossible, it's just very highly unlikely that you will be fishing the top and be successful. So therefore, today we're only going to be focusing on two of the columns of water, which would be the middle and of course the bottom. So in the winter, the top of the water is generally very cold, so you want to right away eliminate that as a possibility of being able to catch these fish. Fish will suspend during the winter, so I have two baits here that'll help you catch those suspended bass. The first one, of course, would be a little suspended jerk bait. Something you can toss out there, and you can give your rod just a couple twitches, and you can let this pause for up to an entire minute. Imagine a bass coming up and just looking at your bait, just sitting there, staring at it for up to a minute, just wondering, what is this thing? And then it flicks again. That's when your reaction strike happens, when your bass will see that one little flick of movement and their instincts will turn on and they'll strike your bait immediately. Our next bait for suspending fish in the winter would of course be a little deep diving crankbait. During the summer, you want something with a nice wide wobble, something that has a lot of action. But in the wintertime, you want a nice deep diving crankbait, something that's going to get down there, and something with a tight wobble. Nothing that's going to be, moving around too erratically, something that's going to spook the fish this time of year. Because naturally, in the water, nothing will be moving that fast. You want to just, keep it at a slow, steady movement, steady pace, pausing it when you can. A lot of these deeper diving crankbaits are slow floating, so they have a very slow raising motion. It'll give you a lot of time to get a bite out of these finicky fish this time of year. The next column of water we will be fishing will be the bottom, and I have quite a few baits with me here today for that. I'm going to start out with the fluke style baits, little swim baits. I have them rigged two different ways. Our first swim bait is rigged up on a little jig head here, something that'll fall nose down a little faster in the water, something that can get the bass stirred up. And you'll want to just, pop this along the bottom, keeping it about, maybe like a couple inches off the bottom, but just popping it along, letting it pause, letting it rest on the bottom. Bait can do that. This way, with the little jig head on here, it'll stay nose down, like a dying bait fish, just, nose down, about to take his last couple breaths, or feeding on some dying algae. Moving right along, our next one would of course be tied up on a Texas rig. Just, a little EWG hook right through the nose and the back. This one actually has no tail on it, a lot more finesse in the water. It drops slower, you work it a lot slower than you would on a jig head. It gives off minimal vibration, something that will get the bigger bass that are, a lot wiser and more honed in on our tactics to bite. Let's keep this video rolling. Our next bait would of course be a little tiny finesse jig with a crawl trailer. You don't have to put a trailer on here. Some people choose not to do that. I always put trailers on my jigs. This just has a very small profile, something that won't cause a lot of vibration in the water. Natural colors, blue, green pumpkin, something that fish will think is actually bait in the water and not a lure. The crawls will still be active this time of year. Whether they're in your pond or not, bass still will bite a jig with a crawl trailer. Crawls like to bury themselves in the mud this time of year and like to pop up out of the mud on warmer days when the sun's out. This is something that you can fish year round. You can fish for largemouth, smallmouth. It's just an all-around excellent bait. Super finesse. That's why they call it the finesse jig. Our last bait would of course be the ultimate finesse. Half of a finesse Senko on a little ball jig head. I have this tied up pretty much Texas rigged. This is actually a wacky jig. I just hooked it up for the sake of this video, and I've actually fished with this before, and it is very effective. This is something you'd like to just drag across the bottom very slowly, maybe give it a couple pops, once or twice per cast. Something you just want to crawl along the bottom, keep it down there, keep the contact with the bottom, work it very slowly. Got the green pumpkin jig head, the black finesse worm, both natural colors. Something you'll want to use this time of year for sure. And that's not all, people. Of course, this time of year, you always want to use your scents and attractants. If you're getting bit and the bass aren't really committing, you're not setting into them, maybe try throwing on a little attractant to your bait. It really can be the difference between having a good and a bad day fishing. So there you have it, everybody. Those are my lures of choice of fishing this time of year. If you are fishing for bass, you know, this time of year you really want to slow down your retrieve, keep it slow, make sure you're not working the baits too fast, too erratically, you're not stirring up the water too much. That doesn't happen in the winter. You know, fish and other aquatic creatures are cold-blooded animals. Their metabolisms slow down with the water temperature, meaning they slow down and become very lethargic. They don't eat as much, they don't move around as much, they pretty much don't really do anything. You want to key in on the slow techniques, make sure you're working all your baits nice and slow, nothing too erratically. And, you know, scents, obviously, scents and attractants are very effective this time of year. I usually don't tend to use them, but they literally can be a day changer when it comes to, you know, getting some bass. I mean, if you are getting bit consistently and the fish just aren't holding on, it's probably not your technique. The fish are just very finicky and, you know, they're onto you. So maybe throw on a little attractant and that'll get them a little more stirred up and you can hook into that fish you're looking for. Anyway, the fishing is always very tough this time of year, and, you know, I keep saying this, but, you know, you just don't want to give up. You know, persistence is key this time of year. It's very hard to fish. Don't get discouraged if you get skunked. You know, it is what it is. It happens to me all the time. Eastern PA Fishing here. This has been another fishing informational. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe for more. Till next time, you know what it is by now.